Patty, I cannot believe we are less than 3 weeks away from having to hitch up the RV for a long trip for Christmas break, and I thought maybe today would be a good time to talk about what we go through on those long travel days in this episode of Travels with Delaney,
the podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back. My name's Patrick.
And I'm Patty.
And we are joined, as always, here on the old podcast sofa with Truman Marshall and
Bessie Margaret.
That's right. And if you don't know who they are, they're our Cavalier King Charles Spaniels.
And yes, we give them middle names, don't judge.
Yeah. This is a no judgment zone. That's right. We've always done that with our dogs. Yeah, we had our first was Madeline Francis.
Yes.
We called her Maddie. And then they were named after my grandma and great-grandma on my mom's side.
And then, of course, Delaney Christine,
which was actually the name we had chosen if we ever had a girl.
Yep.
And once we realized we weren't having children, we decided, well, let's use the name. And then Mr. Truman Marshall, there was some historical reference there. A lot of people think he's named after, like, the Truman Show.
Or Truman Capote.
Yeah, but no, he's named after Harry S. Truman. And the thing was, we were going to name him Harry, except his brother, who...
friends of ours
had. I guess it would be his brother because they had the same parents, just different age.
Just an older brother.
Was named Harry, friends of ours. And so we didn't want to do that. So we said, well, we'll go with Truman.
Yeah.
And Marshall, obviously, General Marshall, who served in the Truman administration.
And then Truman has to have his best.
That's right.
Truman's wife.
Yeah, exactly. And Margaret was their daughter.
So, yeah.
So, anyway, yeah. So, but initially, a lot of times people just don't
we put a lot of thought into the names.
We do. We ran. I remember when we got these guys. When we were getting
went
Truman,
through a bunch of names.
He was almost Crosby.
He was almost, or Bing.
Well, I don't know. We were.
I think we went with Crosby.
I think we were saying Crosby. Bing. Bing.
Bing.
So.
But then we thought Crosby, and then if you had a girl, you could go Rosemary.
Yeah. So again, it's a little White Christmas reference.
White Christmas.
But
yes.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was looking at the calendar. I'm like, Thanksgiving's over.
It is crazy.
And here we are,
I know.
3 weeks. 3 weeks. I think in 3 weeks we'll actually be in Florida.
I know. Yay.
As we do every year for Christmas normally. And I'm like, man, I have to start thinking about what we need to do. Weekend trips like we just did for Thanksgiving. Those aren't too bad.
They're not too hard.
Number one, we knew we weren't going to cook.
Yeah, that's a given.
Yeah, and because it was just 2 or 3 nights, I guess. And then
it's such a nice place we go, and there's such good food. You don't need to. Yeah.
And I don't need to really stop for fuel. We can pretty much make it all the way. We usually do just because of potty break.
Well, yeah.
But so I think those short weekend trips are a lot different to plan for than when you're taking off for basically about 1,100 miles one way.
Right.
And so I thought we'd talk about that. But, first we have to do another exciting round of this or that.
Okay.
You ready for this one?
Sure.
All right.
Hit me.
Hit you?
Yep.
All right.
Let her rip.
Well, I thought, Patty, since we're heading into the holidays,
all right,
I would hit you with a holiday one.
Okay.
The Christmas tree.
Oh, okay. Yes.
White lights or colored lights?
Ooh, I'm going with white.
White. All right.
I don't know if it's because, growing up in 70s, 80s, everything was color.
I was going to say, as a kid, nobody, at least I didn't. We never did. We always
Bubble
had color.
lights, color lights. Grandma's, it was always color. And I thought, I guess as I've gotten older, I like the white. Yeah. Not that I don't like color, because every now and then our fancy tree that we have on a remote control, you can make it do multiple colors.
That's what I was going to say. You didn't even have to choose, because our tree, which is the current tree we bought last year at Costco. And I have to tell you, we are not sponsored by Costco. However, we would love to be. If you're
that would
Costco
be awesome.
But we bought a LED. It's a 5-section. I don't remember the height on this tree.
It's not
9
12.
foot?
I think it's 9, because we had
9.
a 12.
I think it might be a 9 foot.
And the 12 one kind of died. And
and
had issues.
They sell it in 3 sizes. Dad ended up getting the smaller one,
7?
which his
This is 7?
Maybe 7 foot, and it's 3 sections. Ours is 5 sections. I can't imagine the 12 foot. That's got.
Well, the 112 we had 3 boxes. I'll get that right. 3 boxes for the tree. Yeah.
So, but what's great about it is you can have with the flick of the remote control.
Yeah.
We can have white lights. We can have colored lights. We can have them fade in and out. We can have them blink. I mean,
all this.
crazy.
It could be like a disco in here.
Yeah,
hit the light. Fantastic.
You know, and what I love about it is when you put the tree together,
it comes right
I don't have to plug anything in. Like every time you snap in a section, the next set of lights come on.
Yep.
I absolutely love this tree.
Well, and also, if you remember right, this goes into my OCDism, it doesn't shed.
No,
like some of them.
No.
And this one does not.
The old one, the old 12-footer from Hobby Lobby.
It
was like a dog.
And every time a pup would, rub by it, because Truman likes to, she can go underneath of it to get to look out the patio door, and it's just all over. So I love that. Plus, it's got just different kinds of greenery in the tree itself. They make it looks really nice and full, and I like that. So it's a great tree.
We probably shouldn't be spending so much time talking about it, but you made me think about, do you remember when we had the tree skirt years ago, and it had little beads on the end?
Oh, Delaney did her number on it.
Delaney, she would sit and bark at those, and then she'd like jump at them and jump back.
They were like little beads that hung off
the tree skirt.
And it just hit the light and it made them flicker. And she just...
By the time
she had them all off.
Yeah, by the time we put that away for the season, every one of those beads, because they went all the way around.
She had it work.
Oh, my gosh. But she'd sit there and growl at them, and then she'd throw a paw out and then snap back. Like
it was going to get her, because it was flickering light.
Yeah, oh, my gosh.
And then, but she loved to lay under the tree.
She did. Once she got the skirt the way she wanted it. I have some pictures of her sitting under the tree or sleeping under the tree.
This tree, we put a collar on it. It's just easier to do
so,
with
anyway,
the tree. But anyway,
we can stop talking about trees. I was just curious. I thought I knew what you like.
Yeah. And years ago, just so people think, you don't do a real tree. We've done real trees before, but not in this house. But
no, we never did do a real tree here at Tall Pine. We did decorate Tall Pine. We're pretty much fully decorated.
Outside and inside.
Because initially I didn't really want to, because we're getting ready to sell after the holidays.
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know what? It's such a gorgeous house.
It's beautiful.
And we should really take advantage one last time. And so we did. We put everything up.
It's
so
beautiful.
Anyway.
It's a showcase.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into talking about getting ready for this 1,100 miles we're going to be traveling.
Be nice.
Now, we're going to do this trip over 3 days. Now, I know a lot of times people say, like, well, I only want to drive. I forget what the rule is. People there.
Like, is it 3 and 3 or 3?
I don't know.
300 miles, 3 hours? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like no more than 300 miles, stop by 3 o'clock.
It's weird.
Something else. I don't know. And you know what? Honestly, I love going 3 hours.
That would be great. But when you're working
when
a
you
full-time
work
job,
and you have basically less than 2 weeks or spring break, less than a week,
you need to get there.
You need to get there.
In our opinion.
Now, when we used to go out for 6 to 8 weeks in the summer,
that was great.
I mean,
we got spoiled.
Literally, there were days where we'd have like a 4-hour drive. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're gonna go 4 hours. Because we would literally sometimes go like an hour, hour and a half.
I'm like, I'm good.
And we're like, we're here.
Yeah, we're here.
But unfortunately, with this trip, we need to make it, like I said, just under 1,100 miles. And
yeah, and our feeling is we get there and then we can enjoy where we are for that time, because, school, the Christmas break for me, about 2 full weeks and honestly, 3 weekends.
The third day, I mean, normally we would do it in 2 days.
Right.
But what we started doing several years ago is we will leave Friday night as soon as you're off work.
Yeah,
we will head out, and usually our first stop on the way to Florida is Georgetown, Kentucky.
Cracker Barrel, right?
Yeah, usually do a Cracker Barrel. And then the next night we try to get to southern Georgia.
Right.
And that is a long day.
That's the longest day is the second day of driving.
Right. And then
a lot of caffeine.
And then that third day, that usually sets us up for somewhere between a 3 to 5 hour drive, depending on where we end up.
We'd like to have that last day be shorter, and we like to get in at a good time at wherever we are.
Especially when we're staying at Fort Wilderness.
Yes, you want to get there to be able to enjoy your time and not have to get there in the dark.
You say enjoy. I say maximize my dollars. Because at $300 a night, I am checking in as early as I possibly can because I want to make every minute count.
Well, you got to get there. You got to get your golf cart. You got to get set up. You got to go on your walk. You got to get your.
I know.
We'll be in like winter clothing. You got to get your summer clothing back on, and then you got to get out there and get to see your Mickey. And
I know.
It's a lot
There's
going
a lot to
on.
do. So that's how this trip will go. We'll do that. We'll leave on Friday night, and then get there. We'll actually arrive hopefully about. I usually shoot for noon.
We try to get there noon, 1-ish.
Yeah,
because
Disney's great because they will let us in. Usually they'll let you go to your site after 12 o'clock if the site's available. And a lot of times, they may have you assigned to one site.
Right.
But if you're pulling in early, they'll say like, well, I had you on this in this loop.
Yep.
It's not available,
yet,
but I do have one over here. Would you be okay? And we're always like, we don't really care.
They're all great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so, and I mean, unless for some reason we had put in a request. Now, like this year, I think we're trying to get into a loop with Jonathan and Anna because they're going to be there. Our friends from Tree Talker, the Traveler, over on YouTube. But otherwise, no, we don't care.
It doesn't matter.
As long as we can get in.
As long as we can fit.
Yeah.
Like we're not on a tent site or something.
Yeah, because we'll have, and Patty's right, we have a lot to do because once we get there, after we get it backed in and you go through your normal setup.
We got to get it all set up like you would, but then you got to get Christmas set up.
You got to get all the Christmas lights out.
Because you got to get in there because everybody there decorates.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be the one that's not decorating.
And usually I'll drop Patty off when we're checking in so that she can go.
I get the golf cart.
She goes because we rent a golf cart. It's a very big resort. But this episode isn't about Disney, Patty. It's about getting to Disney.
Oh, squirrel.
Or wherever we're going.
Squirrels.
So anyway, I just thought we'd talk about like, okay, we know we're leaving on Friday night. Like what types of things do we have to do before we jump in the truck and head out? And so for us, at least, number one, I have to make sure that we have fresh water on board.
Yes.
Because we are overnighters, in a sense. Like,
right.
I hate to use the word boondocking because I've had people then leave
not
comments.
Really.
They're like, being at a Cracker Barrel is not boondocking. Well, it's
you're
whatever.
Not hooked up to shore power.
It's dry. It's
dry camping, I guess.
Kind of. But then somebody who will say, well, you shouldn't be camping at a Cracker Barrel or Walmart. It's overnight parking. Like, I feel like it doesn't matter what I say.
Somebody's like talking to fifth graders.
I know. It's like somebody's going to critique me for whatever I say. But, yeah, we're going to overnight park. And so we need
enjoy ourselves and have some Cracker Barrel.
Yeah. But then, I always like to double check things like tire pressure before we leave.
And propane, probably.
I want to make sure our propane is topped off because, quite frankly, it's very possible in Kentucky we might need to run the furnace at night.
Usually we do.
You just don't know.
You just don't know, but sometimes it's chilly willy like in Indiana. So
right. So I want to make sure that's done. I want to make sure those tire pressures are where they need to be. I usually double check the lug nuts just to make sure there's nothing.
Yeah, you do all that. Yeah.
And then we also have to many days in advance.
We have to load it up.
Right, with clothes
that we want, food, dog food, snacks. Because, we are going to, on this one, going to Florida, we'll eat in the trailer some and eat out some. It's not full eat out all the time because you just don't want to do that because you're at the campground. It's awesome.
And it's too expensive.
And it's way too expensive. So you're going to have certain things you want to have. You got to have all your medicines and the puppy meds just in case they need it. And, their daily stuff. And water and, it's just you got to get it loaded back up because we took everything out. Because it might get really cold.
That's a good point. Yeah, we've taken out all the liquids, so your shampoos and your
dish soaps and lotions.
Now we have those in crates, ready to go right back into the trailer.
That's why we put them in the crate, so we can just slide them right in there
and then unload them.
Unload them as we go, and it doesn't have to be unloaded like right away, because it's might be that one year we left here. It was very, very cold. Yeah. And so it might have to wait.
So there's quite a bit of planning.
You got to think ahead.
We probably start a week or more in advance to get ready for what we call a big trip.
Well, it's like when you go to Florida at that time of year, at least for us, because we come back in the winter, you got to have winter stuff because you never know. Sometimes we went to Florida and it is cold.
Oh, I remember one winter where we were wearing winter coats, and I remember stores had signs up.
Yeah,
we were out of hats, out of gloves,
scarves, and so we always we've learned you take all that stuff just in case. And then you got your summer stuff in case it gets, we're from the north, so if it gets above 70, we're getting on those shorts.
70. Like
65,
60.
whatever.
I'm 60
We're getting in
and
the
above.
pool. You got your swimsuit. You got,
Right.
all the stuff you need. But yeah, I'm always wanting to think ahead because I'm like, okay, where are we eating? Do I need like more dressy clothes? What do I need? What time are we eating? Do I need like a nice sweater, my blazer, whatever? So it's always like you got to think ahead
Right.
on those trips because you don't have access to everything you own.
Right.
So, yeah.
So then we finally hit the road.
Yeah.
And so a few things that I try to prepare for in advance.
Right.
Number one, when we had the Tab 400, I could pull in at any gas station.
It was easy.
I never had to worry about fuel stops. But when you're hauling a larger RV, and now we're up to a 33-foot fifth wheel,
Yep.
you can't just pull into any gas station. Like it's just... It requires some planning. And so what I like to do ahead of time is I like to figure out where am I going to attempt to get fuel.
Right.
And I still use Allstays. Allstays is
great.
It's a great app because not only can you find campgrounds, but you can find things like Flying J's and pilots and things like that. So I'm always scouting out, and I'm pretty much going to Florida because we've done it so much.
You kind of have an idea.
Yes.
Unless there's something new that's been built along the way.
And sometimes you find stuff. I also like to have options.
Right, because you never know when you're going to pull into one and it's going to be packed.
Right.
And you're like, okay, that's not going to work. Or you see that as we now are looking now, what do you call those covers over the gas pumps?
Yeah, the awnings
are a little low, so we're not going there.
Right. So I do try to. I actually come up with a fuel strategy, and I know some of you are gonna be like, "Are you kidding me?" No, seriously though, I kind of map out to know that, and some of them we've done so many times. We just know that our first stop on Friday night is going to be down north of Dayton, Ohio.
Yep.
And there's a Casey's.
Right.
We actually have two options there.
Yeah.
There is a Casey's at one exit,
right,
which we've kind of started going to.
Yeah. And another exit.
There's a Flying J.
Yes.
And both of those work really well.
They're open.
I don't know why that Casey's is never busy when we're there.
It is nuts. It is
and
never busy.
I can pull in.
Yep.
There's plenty of room to get gas, and sometimes we go in and get food. Usually we get food.
Right, something.
Yeah, because, Patty had just gotten off work. And
we eat early with fifth grade, so 11 was a long time ago.
Yeah. and usually you pack a snack or something in the truck.
Yeah.
But, so we know that's where we're going to stop on Friday night. It's either going to be the Flying J or the Casey's.
And both of them have, because I always like to, when we travel, find nice grassy areas to potty these pups.
Right.
And so they have nice areas where I know.
And the Casey's is actually better for that.
It is better for that because it has a better area for them to go, and it's safer.
And honestly, the Casey's is less busy than the Flying J.
Yeah.
Even though the Flying J has like a dedicated
it's
RV
been busy
aisle.
before.
It gets pretty crowded in there.
It does, yeah.
And then we know that we will not make another stop.
Right.
Until we get to the Cracker Barrel in Georgetown.
Yep.
Okay. And because then what'll happen is the next morning we'll leave that
pretty
Cracker
early,
Barrel.
like at school day early.
Right.
We try to leave early.
And we'll have enough. I will have enough fuel left to get to Buc-ee's in Richmond, Kentucky.
And that one is usually okay at that time of the morning.
Yeah, when you show up at like 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever,
it's
7:30.
okay because we've learned that a lot of these Buc-ee's, we love them. Don't get me wrong, but they are not always friendly for RVers, and because there's not a lot of space, sometimes they're packed, and so we can make that one and do a good job, get what we want there, and get our Buc-ee fix, and
and then our next stop will be just south of Knoxville, the south side of Knoxville, and at that exit we have two.
You do
one on each side that we can
choose
from.
Which one you want,
and then after that, then originally when I made out this plan a couple years ago, we were going to hit two more Buc-ee's.
And it didn't work.
Because during the holidays, by the time you get into the afternoon,
It's
there's
packed.
zoos. So usually we stop in somewhere in North Georgia. I can't remember exactly where. I think near Calhoun.
I think so.
We stop, and there's literally a Love's across from the Buc-ee's, and it cracks me up.
The Love's is usually empty.
Yeah, like Buc-ee's, everybody's fighting to get into Buc-ee's, so we just whip it into the Love's.
Yep.
And and so anyway, that's what I do is I come up with this strategy, and I try to find a couple different locations.
Then as we're going, we're like, okay, this isn't going to work. You know, you were talking in the truck, and I'm usually getting on the app or looking at different things, trying to figure out. And I'm looking even at if it's a new place, I look at Google Maps and I pull it up to get the look of the parking lot or the parking area and kind of thing like that to help with where to park and how we're going to do this, and is it on the right or the left, and you know, that kind of thing, just to help Patrick get the big rig in there, you know.
Let's be honest, Patty.
Yeah.
Every now and then, you and I will start thinking about something, and it'll be like, oh, Zaxby's. Oh, we haven't had Zaxby's in a year.
Yeah.
You want Zaxby's for lunch? And Patty is so good. Like, number one, she'll get on there and she'll be like, okay, there's a Zaxby's in 20 miles.
I use my iExit app, which I love.
iExit to find stuff. And then I'll always say, like, yeah, but is there any place for me to park? And she's like, hold
just
on.
a minute, I'm looking.
And you go into Google, like you said,
like,
Maps, and you go to satellite view.
Yeah, that's it.
So that you can zoom in and see like and sometimes it'll be a situation where I can't get into, let's say, the Zaxby's lot.
But they're like hooked up to another parking area, like to a grocery store or something.
And she'll be like, if you park in the grocery store lot,
we can walk to
we can walk over.
Take the pups a walk. And
I think that's a good tip for people is before you get yourself into situations.
You need to check out the satellite view,
especially if you have a really big rig. Now again, if you have a, like when we had Carl,
our tab.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, I could probably have went through drive-throughs.
Well, if you remember, we did out west.
We did go through a drive-through, didn't we? We went through a Taco John's drive-through with the tab at home. Yeah.
It did not have an awning or a cover or anything. But we went right through.
Do you remember in Jackson Hole? we just had our tow vehicle. We went into town.
We just had the 4Runner.
And we were going to get, we went to McDonald's to get something to drink.
Yeah.
And do you remember the guy with the travel trailer?
And he took off something. He ripped off something off his trailer, didn't he?
Oh, I thought he did.
Like he scooted it along and scraped it up, or no?
No, he cleared.
Okay, yeah. He had a long...
But, I mean, it was I bet that thing was at least 25 to 28-foot travel trailer.
It was crazy.
And I said to Patty, I'm like,
we got to record this.
I literally had the camera rolling because I'm like, this is going to be great footage because this guy's he's going to take out their sign.
But he was good, I guess.
And I don't know how he did it. He swung way out. I mean, it was crazy. But,
I mean, at least with the tab, it's like you're pulling a little trailer behind you. It's not going to go where you aren't going. It's going to go pretty much where the car goes. So, yeah, I forgot about that. Oh, my gosh.
But, I mean, if you use your satellite view on Google Maps, you can kind of get a sense for what the parking lot's like so you don't get yourself into a situation you just don't want to be in.
Yeah.
So, we always plan out our fuel stops. We don't always plan out food because a lot of times we'll either do one of two things. We'll just get the urge for something like Zaxby's and Patty will find us along the way. Or we'll get food at one of the fuel stops.
Yeah.
Or, sometimes we just carry food in the RV.
And there's been times where like, I don't really want any of this. Let's just find a rest area.
Yeah.
We open up the slide out. You can
make a sandwich or
sit in there and
heat up something.
Chill out. Just for a few minutes, just to get a break if the traffic's been really heavy and you just need to get out of the truck.
Well, in fact, I believe it was last spring.
We had to do that, I
think it was it spring break? I don't know. It doesn't matter when
it was.
But I remember traffic was so bad.
It was bad.
I don't want to say I was frustrated.
But it was tiring.
It's tiring.
Exhausting.
Yeah. And I finally said, I'm just going to, because I think I pulled into Cracker Barrel. It was last Christmas on the way to Florida. And, I got off and Patty goes, where are you going? And I said, I'm going to this Cracker Barrel. And I think you were like, we're stopping already? Because it
wasn't one of our stops.
It was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, how about if we just get something to eat?
And take a break.
We'll do what we always do at Cracker Barrel. We'll place the mobile order, and then we'll run in, get it, bring it out, put the slide out, eat.
Walk the pups around. Everybody's legs stretched. Get some fresh air. It was beautiful. I remember the weather was great.
Yeah.
We just needed a break.
You just needed a break. And so, yeah. So, I mean,
because when we have to hoof it, moving that second day, sometimes you need a break.
Right.
And you just need to get out and not be in that truck.
And then as far as overnight stops on these long trips, we're not much for reservations if we don't have to have them. Like, we had to have our reservations for Disney.
Well, because sometimes you have to change on the fly. Like, something changes, Anyway.
But when we know we're, like, a good example, Georgetown, Kentucky, we normally stop at the Cracker Barrel.
Right.
But I have some backups just in case. Because one year in Georgetown, we told this story before.
Yeah.
We showed up and there was a guy, it was winter. He's sitting in a lawn chair with a blanket over him.
It was freezing cold out.
And we just had a weird feeling.
I'm like, this is why.
So I had
There's
a backup.
There's a hotel right there. Why isn't he inside? Or what's going on?
And so we had a backup. Or if you get to a Cracker Barrel and there's no place to park.
Sometimes that's happened.
So that's why I always like to have multiple. So,
Well, and then with these Cracker Barrels, too, we've even gotten to where, as we're driving, we'll call ahead just to make sure that their policy hasn't changed. Because we don't want that knock in the middle of the night and having to get, out of there.
And sometimes we just don't know where we want to stop.
Right.
Like, good example, second day on the way to Florida, we may want to stop anywhere from Perry, Georgia, all the way down into northern Florida.
Right.
I know just about every Cracker Barrel along there. and so, and again, that time of year, it can get busy. I mean, we've pulled in before where we're like, there's not much space for another.
We need to keep going.
So it's like, well, we'll just go, because literally down there on I-75,
there's so many.
You go maybe another 30 miles, 40 miles, there'll be another one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm excited. And I'm all juiced up.
And we talked about this in a recent podcast about tires, but one of the things that sometimes we do have to sometimes adjust our tires on these trips.
We had to on one of the recent ones, didn't we?
Last year because it was so cold when we left. I had them up to 80. I think it's 80 psi is what it calls for in those.
But then when it got southern Georgia,
it was reading 95, and it was
a lot
alerting
warmer
us.
Out,
and so we had to pull off. And so that'll be something I'll be watching this year a little more closely on the TPMS. Is just as we go from cold to warm,
right?
Because it's so easy. You just let a little air out, and
plus it gave us a chance to walk.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I think that's kind of it. Usually you make a snack bag for the truck.
I usually have a snack bag in the truck of different things. I call them crunchies, which are salty, and then you got your sweet, and he likes his gummies and maybe some peanut M&Ms, and then you got the dog bag. They got their own backpack.
We don't carry many beverages because
not a lot of drinks. Sometimes there's some water. I'll have extra water.
We usually keep a couple extra bottles of water, but part of that is because the more we drink, the more we have to stop.
Yeah, that's just how it goes. Yeah, so
my bladder's, not what it used to be.
I just remember traveling with your mom on one of our trips to Florida. Every time we'd stop, she'd get a big iced tea.
I know. I was like, Mom, you gotta stop with the big iced tea.
She's like, I'm so thirsty. When she get a big iced tea, I was like, okay, we're going to have to stop soon because she has to go. But yeah, I always have water for these guys, bottled water, and their backpack of snackies and whatever. They like snacks, and then our snacks, and sometimes I have like extra like Walmart sacks in case you have some trash because I like to keep it clean,
Right.
Or just in case. I'm a teacher, so you carry that on field trips in case someone gets an upset stomach and they get sick. So yeah, so you just have all those little extras, things that you might need, and napkins and silverware and all that's in the console, and just in case, you never know.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
anyway, you're prepared.
So that's kind of what we go through on these travel days. And I know everybody travels a little bit differently, which is fine. Again, I wish we didn't have to have a 12-hour travel day.
Yeah, those are tough, but it's worth it in the end.
It is to us, at least.
It's worth the haul. So
because and coming home usually it's a 2-day, so it's
we're
too
just
long.
like, let's just go.
Yeah, usually just want to go home. But anyway,
it's just gray.
All right, everyone. Well, we hope you had a wonderful time with family and friends over the Thanksgiving holiday.
Go.
I know we sure did.
Yep.
Always love getting together, Jim and Abe.
So fun.
Always have a good time.
Always. Lots of laughs.
Speaking of Jim, Mr. Jim
Thank you,
Kuzman,
Jim.
He's our friend. He's our editor, producer, and just makes this thing what it is.
Yep.
Don't forget, if you use our Amazon link, which I am going to put down in the show notes or the description of the video version of this podcast, during the month of November and December, all the money that we make from our Amazon affiliate, we are actually giving to Mr. Jim.
Yes.
Because he works for free. And we felt like he ought to get paid. And we said, you know what? We want to do this. So we sure appreciate anyone who uses that link to help support this podcast. And thank to all of you, because without you
so
listening,
it would just be Patrick and
we
I
probably
with
wouldn't
some
need
cool
to record
headsets
it.
on.
Yeah, we just
pretending we're like working at McDonald's or
exactly.
something.
Would you like to upsize that? Would you like some biggie fries? All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much, and until next time, we'll see you
on down the road.
Bye.
Travels with Delaney. We'll see you on down the road.